Salutations, my Fallout lovers. It is Matty here today with week 37 of the H.A.M Radio Podcast.
And it is me, the king of kangaroos, the LoneVaultWanderer. So you want to tell them what happened, Matty?
Okay, yeah, so we recorded this podcast once, yesterday, or 2 days ago while you're listening to this, and I was not recording for some reason. I don't know why. Shadowplay, I wouldn't want to blame it. I think I must have hit the wrong button because I had to hit Alt+, and I must have hit the wrong button. And so Noah was with us, but the only time we could record is today, my mom's birthday, so there's a party. So now we're cramped for time. So now it's just Lone and I for today's podcast. And don't get mad at Noah for missing, because this time it's actually not his fault. It's my fault, so blame me.
Matty.
It was the one week, because, Lone, you're busy, so you're like, hey, could you help me out and just record the podcast for us? And the one time, 37 weeks, we're fine. The one time we need to make sure I have everything handled, I fail us.
Oh, man. It had to be this podcast,
That's what I'm saying. It had to be this one. It couldn't have been like a previous one and whatever. But anyway, today we are going to be talking about just our initial impressions on the game. We had reviews up, both of us, but we want to talk a little bit more on the game as we've both progressed, and we want to talk about some things, whether it's complaints or praise, and we're just going to be all over the place with this podcast. So where would you like to start?
I think we should just start generally, and this is where I started my review, but I think it's the most important. Just talking about the choice and the freedom in the game. I mean, that was the most prevailing theme that Todd Howard kind of expressed during his interviews and the E3 presentation. It really is a game that you can just do what you want.
Yes.
And, whether it's heading straight out of Vault 111, and for me, for the first 15, 20 hours or so, I didn't do the main story, for example. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I kind of switched gears. The game allows you to do that. And I really appreciate that. And it's very different to your typical linear narrative that you might get from another game, which can be just as good, but Fallout provides that unique perspective.
Yeah, I agree, because for me, I had the same exact playthrough. Like, the story was good and gripping, but I still just got that Bethesda fever where I was like, okay, one more area. Ooh, quest. Ooh, unique item. Ooh, what's this legendary?
Yeah.
And like,
well, this looks.
Yeah, this looks interesting, and just I get sucked into this portal, and I just keep going deeper and deeper into the depths of the game. And I agree that the freedom is definitely there, and especially when it comes to like choice in game, where you can really ally yourselves with whoever you want. You can say whatever you want, which I guess could carry us into kind of the conversation system. Where I feel like that was a big surprise, because that could have fallen apart real fast with the voice acting, only 4 choices for each conversation.
Yeah.
A lot of people were scared about that, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people expressing their constant, I guess, disapproval with the 4-choice dialogue wheel, whatever you want to call it, because in past Fallout games, you had so many options as to what to say. And you could read them in full before you actually spoke to the NPC that you're speaking with. So it does give you more of a freedom in that sense, because you know exactly what you're about to say. But with Fallout 4, not only are there just 4 options, it's also you don't necessarily know what's going to be spoken to until it's too late. Like, you have to read one of those really brief descriptions, and then you find out what your character is saying, but then you can't say, all right, I'm happy with that. So a lot of people are concerned with that. But the thing is, though, as I said in my review, I was never surprised as to what was said. Rarely surprised. Those brief descriptions are, good enough, I think, and they're descriptive enough. And also, as well, I mentioned this in our last podcast.
The unrecorded one.
The unrecorded one, the missing one. I found myself not fixating on text so much and actually looking at the person I was talking to, which was nice. Yes. Honestly, it was really nice.
More human experience. The only thing, and this is the good thing about doing the podcast twice, is because a complaint kind of surfaced that I have about the conversation wheel, is that I don't like that none of my perks or skills, except for charisma, your speech, whatever you want to say, play into the conversation wheel, where if like I have a high medic perk rank, whatever, I know it might be hard to tie in, but I can't get those additional conversation options like in every other Fallout game, where if you're a smart guy, high intelligence, or if you're good with medicine or whatever, you can get these additional options in the conversation wheel, which I think it would have been awesome if Bethesda, just for a select few conversation, like a left trigger or a right trigger option might pop up if like there was an option to use your medic skill and be like, oh, hey, I know how to help you out here while you're hurt or something, you know?
That's a really good idea.
I feel like things like that should have been considered, and I'm sure they were. But I think if they were to expand on the conversation wheel, I think this is the way they should have. Because although I don't have a problem with the conversation options, it's because I have a speech build. I don't think everyone has a high charisma build. And if you don't, then you're kind of limited now to like a select few choices in that conversation wheel, which isn't a bad thing. You can usually work your way around things. It's a very free game, as we were saying. But I really do, if I miss anything from conversations, it's definitely not having like skills tie into the conversation where I feel like my character's actually adept in certain areas and experienced in others, you know?
No, that is a really good point. And look, it does find the face with traditional RPG concepts and notions where you have so many options in terms of speech dialogue and then you get to select one. But I thought that this was kind of a natural step for the franchise. A lot of people, admittedly, are going to view this as dumbing down Bethesda, catering to a casual audience. It just depends on your perspective. I found it enjoyable because it allowed me to sit back, relax, and view it as like a cinematic experience.
Yes, I agree, because the camera angles change when you're talking, despite the bug with the power armor, which I'm sure will be patched.
Oh, that's annoying. It's so annoying.
That's the only thing that really does irk me, is when you're in power armor, in case no one knows, that the camera doesn't accommodate that. And so
you'll see the shoulder.
Yeah, you'll see the shoulder of the power armor, and it'll just block out the person. And there are times I'm recording for videos, and like I'm doing like a little guide video, and like I'll be like, talk to this guy, but all of a sudden you'll see this big shoulder of power armor. I'm like, okay, you can't see his face. No one knows what he looks like. Like, it's such a pain.
And there are also other occasions where you're just like looking at a wall or a pillar.
Yeah.
Because the camera angle is just stuffed up in some sort of way.
I guess that's what you can expect when it's, as Todd Howard said, like dynamic. You know, it's going to naturally happen in the world. So sometimes it can't accommodate for every object in the world.
Yeah.
So I'm not too surprised. But regardless, I like what it did. It succeeded at what it went for, which was, moving the franchise forward, but also establishing a more emotional connection because of the voice actors, which I guess we could talk about now. The voice acting I thought was strong in the game overall.
I thought the voice acting, it was effective. I thought, Brian, I haven't experienced much of Courtney, but all of the other characters in the world, they did an effective job. And in particular, I thought having a voice protagonist really helped with the storytelling. It allowed me to connect with the characters more so, not only with my own character, but also the characters that I was speaking to. And, I felt human, and I was actually talking to these people. It wasn't just some silent, mute person that just didn't say anything, which was kind of weird. But the one thing, though, and, I want to mention this, is the lip syncing in the game. And the facial animations, I just, even when it works, it doesn't seem natural.
Yeah.
But there are times where it just completely stuffs up, whether it's the voice and the lips are completely out of sync, or sometimes the lips don't move and I can still hear voice. There are a lot of those instances. Like, it's really like I think you saw my review where my character was just not talking, I'm not moving his lips, but then the voice was still happening. Like, those instances, those are like not game breaking, but immersion breaking.
They absolutely are. Like I said, there is one point with a companion. I won't spoil what happens. Spoiler-free discussion. And she was just going through like a really tough time, and it was like this big quest, and she's like in this awful agonizing pain, and her face is straight, her mouth is not moving, but she is like screaming. I'm sitting there like agonizing myself because I'm like, is she okay? Like, what the fuck is the game breaking? Like, I don't know what's going on. And it was one of the few times Fallout 4 broke my immersion, because it was it was supposed to be such an emotionally impactful moment, but it was nothing. It was kind of like in Fallout 3 when you tell Harkness, like, you activate him as an android again and tell him the truth, and it's supposed to be like, you're like, sorry Harkness, activate code whatever, and like his reaction is supposed to be dramatic, but he's like, oh, like that. And it's like some like frozen screen in the background. It was like one of those moments where I was like, that was supposed to matter, but it didn't.
It did it. Yeah, and I think it is an engine problem. Like, none of us here doubt the technical abilities of all the
Mhm.
employees at Bethesda. It just seems like a grassroots core problem with the
Yeah.
engine that, for some reason, the facial animations just aren't that good.
Mhm.
And to be honest, the fact that they tried, I'm sure anyways, tried their hearts out to try and fix it and to try and make it seem more natural. The fact that it's still like this, it does make me worry about, well, is this always going to be a problem with
Yeah.
Bethesda games? Is this just one of those things we're going to have to
I
cop on the
think
chin? I hope
I
not.
think we learned through Fallout 4 that their animators are definitely capable. A lot of people used to slam them. But when you look at the
Yeah.
body animations, whether it's in conversation, combat, running, whatever, it's a lot more fluid. There's a lot more to the animations where for example, melee combat or hand to hands actually have completely crazy finishing moves. Like I got sent a video on Twitter. The stuff you can do in hand to hand for VATS finishers, you can like Batista bomb people, you can flip them over and stuff. You can fuck people up, okay? And
Out of nowhere!
seriously, you can mess people up, and it's awesome. And so they and the what I'm saying though is that the animations look natural and fluid. So I don't doubt their animators. So I would say that it's got to be something in the system when it comes to maybe facial capture. They can't do as much because I know when we had Brian on, I think he said like they only did a little bit of facial capture, and I think it was for
Yeah.
parts like right in the beginning where they were like in the mirror and they're you're gonna kill at the veterans hall tonight, honey, or whatever, and that seems like a point where maybe facial capture was a thing, but even then it was like actually they definitely have to have done it because there was that picture of Brian with all like the dots on his face and stuff. Do you remember that?
There was that, and there was also all of the stuff with dog meat.
True,
So
true.
obviously it is possible, but for some reason it just doesn't translate smoothly. And again, probably an engine problem. Can it be fixed even after they've tried for years since Skyrim to try and do it? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, but regardless,
But
I think
what
that
can
the voice acting really brought things to life because they don't repeat, thank goodness. So
yeah,
it's a
and the companions open up to you. They
yeah.
like tell you stuff, and you can flirt with them. It's great.
It's very minus the romancing. It's very New Vegas esque, where as you explore with them and gather their approval, they open up to you more, and it feels like you're almost like you actually are adventuring with them together. Like as you spend more time together, they open up to you more and more and tell you their backstory. If they need your help, they'll call upon you, and it feels like you're actually their friend, which sounds
It feels
ridiculous,
like
but
the
it
you know.
really brings the experience to life.
Yeah, and like just when you're walking along, and you experience this with Piper, I experience this with Paladin Dance. They're like, "Yeah, hey, can I talk with you for a second?" And then they tell you this backstory that's been affecting him. Obviously, I won't go into details, but it makes them seem human. And even in your interactions with other people in the wasteland, sometimes they'll just chime in and say something in particular, and you're like, "Oh." Right, I actually have a companion and they can talk to people. They're not just this random person standing next to me that only purpose is to shoot.
Yeah.
Like it makes them seem like a real person. And on the topic of flirting, so when I had Paladin dance, it was great. So he told me this story and then I got my character to flirt and he's like, "Oh, does that mean you hold me when I'm crying?" And then Dance is like, "Oh, I don't know. I never thought you'd ask me that. It would depend." And it was so tongue tied, and it looked legitimate. I
Yeah,
loved it.
the almost like with Piper, it's almost the same thing. She gets very she stutters. She like gets caught up in her words when you start flirting with her and stuff. She's like, I didn't know you felt that way, and she's so adorable. I literally. Oh my god, I love her so much. Like I know you can almost down the line it'll be a cliche to love Piper and Fallout 4 because she's like one of the most promoted companions towards like the
Yeah.
launch of the game. But like it's so well deserved because she's so cute. Like she's so adorable. I love her.
That is smitten.
I have a crush on her, and it's also because I saw her voice actor on Twitter. All right, and Cal tweeted her. The voice actor's adorable too, and we want her on this podcast. So track her down. Contact info. You have our Twitter handles on screen. Piper on the
Yep.
podcast. Hashtag Piper likes him.
Pi- Piper likes ham. Oh my god, the memes we're gonna get on
Yes.
that. So I briefly mentioned that voice acting help storytelling. Now I want to touch on the story. We won't mention any elements, but I just want to say holy fuck, it's
Oh
improved
yeah.
over Fallout. Like, holy shit. I'm someone, and if you've been a long time fan of this podcast, you'll know what I mean. I've been critical of the story in Fallout 3. Probably too much so, but I have been critical because it just wasn't compelling, it wasn't engaging, it didn't have those emotional moments, it didn't pull at the heartstrings. Fallout 4 did all of that. It did all of
Yes.
that. And I was so appreciative
I
of it.
agree. I completely agree. It was a much stronger story. It seemed like Bethesda was a lot more confident in their storytelling where when you look in retrospect after playing some Fallout 4 story and looking at Fallout 3 where it was kind of like your typical Enclave, Brotherhood of Steel storyline and stuff, you really get the feel that Fallout 4 Bethesda was like, okay, they liked what we did in Fallout 3, but there were some flaws. This is our series now. Let's improve upon it. And they really did. And I think they did a great job at it. All good?
Hello?
Oh,
Yeah, that was
okay.
good.
Oh yeah, I can just thank God for the power of editing. I'll say that much. So I was talking about main story, how Bethesda is more confident. If you'd like to pick up from there. Oh man, this sucks. So let's move on to the gameplay. We talked about a lot this podcast, although we've been split up quite a bit. But
Don't tell him.
yeah, don't tell them. Inside story, we've been trying to record this podcast for probably a borderline of like over 24 hours now with all these
About
connection
that.
breaks and stuff. But you guys wouldn't know.
About
The power of editing is strong with us. So we'll talk about the gameplay in Fallout 4 a little bit. A severe improvement, I think we can agree on that.
Massive improvement. And the biggest thing for me is that VATS, it's not such a crutch anymore. Like, you're not relying on it over and over. It's not this necessity as it was back in Fallout 3 in New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Now the regular gunplay is fun. It's smooth. It's solid. Of course, it's not like your typical first-person shooter, but and I see this a lot. This complaint, like, oh, the game's shooting should still be a bit better. But I keep saying the
Really?
game is still yeah, I've seen it.
Really?
And I keep saying that the game is an RPG, an action RPG with shooting elements. It is not a shooter in the traditional sense. But even then, even with those traditional notions and paradigms holding Bethesda back, they've still gone on and improved the gunplay a lot. I'm fucking loving it. I don't know about you.
Like, for me, I saw like this vast improvement. Like, you can see that they asked id Software to help them. You can totally tell because the game, the
definitely.
shooting is a lot like Wolfenstein, and you can definitely tell with some guns that the guy who they hired from Bungie, I think his name is Josh Hamrick. You can see he definitely helped a lot because a lot of the gunplay sometimes with like the fully auto guns is a lot like Destiny. And I'm not trying to draw comparisons just because they're there, but you can really see it. So I'm a little shocked that people would actually complain about the gunplay, especially in retrospect to Fallout 3 in New Vegas. Like, what is there to complain about? It's so much better.
Like, in retrospect, you compare Fallout 3 New Vegas and then Fallout 4, it is like leaps and bounds beyond what it ever was.
A comparison.
It was so clunky and chunky and slow to move, but this, like,
A comparison I make with the shooting for Fallout 4 is to Metro Last Light. That's a game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I see that shooting. It's good gunplay. It could be a smidge better, but like it's heavy, solid, post-apocalyptic gunplay. And
I want to draw
like
comparisons to Rage as well.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that was by
Rage.
id as well. I think. I'm not sure.
It is, isn't it? It is. Rage is
They're
by
the best.
id Tech. I'm typing it right now. Yeah.
Yep.
It is.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, but yeah, in our opinion, obviously, it's vastly improved. But you can't make those. I think those comparisons with like your Call of Duty, Battlefield, whatever. Those are unfair comparisons, in my opinion.
I agree because those are and even though Todd Howard said we don't want our excuse to be that just because we're an RPG we can't be a good shooter as well. Where I think it is a good shooter, but when games are created solely to be shooters, your Battlefronts, Battlefields, Call of Duties, what have you, those are literally built to be good shooters. Where Fallout 4. I'm sure if you ask Bethesda, would you rather build a better shooter or a better RPG? They'd say, well, we want a better RPG. But we want good shooting on top of that. As Todd would say, our cake and ice cream. I love that phrase. That's like, when he said that, I just smiled. I'm like, yes, I would like that too.
Maddie's attracted to Todd, confirmed.
I think like one day we'll eventually, hopefully, meet Todd and I don't know if I'm either gonna faint or talk to him as if we've been friends for a while. You know what I'm saying?
A feel good moment, like
Yeah.
running in the sunset, seeing Todd in the distance.
There was this interview with Todd where someone was like, "Yeah, we saw the launch trailer for Fallout 4," and people were like, "Where's the movie?" And like, you just see Todd's eyes, like all hope in life just dies in his eyes. Apparently, he's just like, a fucking movie. Like, he just told me a Fallout 4 should be a movie. It was so great.
Oh man, that's excellent. Love Todd. Love good old Todd.
Because he still gives the guy the benefit of the doubt and answers his question, but you can see in his eyes, he's like, "Where's the Fallout movie?" He's like,
It's just like, fuck you.
He's like, "There is no fucking movie. I'm strangling you with my eyes right now."
But you know what's a good idea? A Fallout 4 movie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So on top of the gameplay, how about some of this crafting and settlement shit in the game?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't put as much time in the settlement system as I should have to give a proper opinion on it. But at least with my first glances, I put like an hour into the settlement system building, maybe. Yeah, so not much.
Then I'll speak for it because I've put an insane amount of time into it because.
Of course.
Well, because I couldn't help myself because it's literally an abyss because you start like. When you get that one settlement and you start building it, you're like, okay, yeah, whatever, move on. But then I found out in Fallout 4 that you can unlock like a ton of settlements. Like there's a bunch of them in the game.
Yeah.
And then you can connect them all with supply lines. So each one I'm fully decking out and building in depth and like creating little personalities to the areas where I'm like, okay, this is a little bunker and this is a dance studio and shit. Because I'm weird like that. But yeah, it just gives the area's personality for me.
Dance studio.
Yeah, because I put like a little strobe light or the mirror ball that like, you know, like it just rotates on the ceiling and stuff. It's great. But what happens is like, then I'm like, well, I want to make money from this area. Okay, I'm going to set up an emporium here. All right, now I need food. Oh shit, another guy came in. I need food. And it's like, okay, now I got to go to the next area and do that and improve on the next area. And it just sucks me in more and more. It's a good mode. I understand there's a little bit, it can be a bit finicky at times if I'm honest. Like there are times where, pardon me. Oh god, soda burps. There are times where like parts that don't connect should, because you know a lot of it's based in a lock-on system where items have to lock together for it to properly set up, and that can get a little frustrating at times. And it's also a little annoying that there isn't like just an entire miscellaneous section where I can like go through the junk in my inventory. Like if I have a Nuka-Cola, for example, I can't just select that and put that on a table. That's the only annoying thing is because these shelves are empty. You can put things in them, but that junk is usually used in the settlement for things that you want to build. So it's like really kind of like it can go either way. I can either store it and build things, or I can add a little more personality to my settlement. And in the perspective, when you step back, you're like, well, what's more worth it? So it's like that's the only issue I have is that it's like I can't do the little things like let me put a bottle of Nuka-Cola here, let me lay some tin cans in the cabinets, some pork and beans. I don't fucking know, but you know,
the clutter is what makes the play. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Because it looks lived in, and I try my best to. Like I set up like a theater one time, and you know I put like 2 rows of airplane seats and then like a TV and put a jukebox next to it to make a little entertainment area. That's probably the most alive area in my settlement, but it only goes so far because there's no like food and shit where like these people are just kind of growing crops, but you don't see them like interacting with it.
Is there something that you can do where, because I know you can build settlements and grow the population or whatever. In my playthrough of Fallout 4, what I would prefer doing is just having a lone house, and that's just mine, and I can make it my own. There are no other people there, no other settlers or whatever it is. It's just my place, because me being the Lone Vault Wanderer, I think that's, for me, the better way to play Fallout. I like to be this, like, we're the sole survivor, right?
True.
And is there any way to do that, or is it just literally...
like, where your settlement's not populated?
Exactly.
Well...
I wish there was. Like, you can just have a house.
Spoiler, but when you unlock your first settlement, it's because a faction has to move areas, and so they end up moving into Sanctuary.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that's almost inevitable. Because that's
like, but I know that there are some areas that I've seen. Like, there are some areas, and I won't say what, but you can go upon them, and then... Because the way that you can tell an area can be created into a settlement is if you see a happiness rating when you go to that area.
Or if you find a workbench there or something like that.
Or a workbench and stuff. So I'm just wondering that when you start building from that moment, do people start to populate the area? Because I'll be curious as
You
to
have
whether
to
that's
set
the
up
case.
a settlement recruit station. Now, one thing I'm sure you could do is take over an area, kill everyone, and make it your own. Yeah,
Damn straight.
you
That's
really,
what
you
I would
really
be
could.
doing.
You really could, which I
That's
never
awesome.
thought of. I thought it'd be cool if there's a way you could just say fuck the happiness rating and make like, I'm not saying this in a promotional way, but like, you could make like almost like the pit, like these slave camps and stuff, like where you take over a settlement. They're like, all right, cool, this guy's pretty awesome, and then you just like put them to work, and like you can make those bad choices to like make more money, for example, or something.
Fuck. Sorry, Kaiser.
I was just saying.
Profligates.
Well, Fallout 4 likes to go both ways. Why not have that type of freedom too? How about the weapon crafting though? The settlement we like, but what about the weapon crafting?
I really like the weapon crafting. I think it allows you, not like aside from the being able to rename your weapons, which I think is awesome, it allows you to create unique weapons that suit your personality.
Yeah.
So, and the thing I like about the game is that it provides you with modded weapons automatically. You can loot a particular enemy and see something with like a really long name, like, oh shit, this gun's modded already, right? And then you can like adjust it if you really like that gun. But creating weapons that are probably distinct to every other player out there. Like you can have your own scope, have your own magazine, silencer, whatever it is. There's so much choice, and I really do appreciate it. Like when I'm carrying a weapon, I'm like, yeah, this is mine, and yeah, I love that freedom.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's cool is that it even stretches into the unique weapons and armor, where you can get them. They're already unique to everything in the game, and then you can make them more unique by crafting them and like adding things to them. And I think that's an awesome freedom, because usually you look at Skyrim, for example, where you could like blacksmith all these awesome weapons and armor that ended up being better unique items, and the unique items just had better buffs than anything in the game, but they didn't really equal out. Where now you can take that unique item that you really like and then buff it into something even better.
And that's why I recommend for people, don't waste all of your junk and stuff on mod. Like, I'm not going to tell you how to play the game, but in my opinion, don't use all of your junk and stuff modding just random weapons. Wait until you find the unique or legendary variant of that weapon and mod that, because with that particular buff, it's going to make this awesome weapon, and you're not wasting all your junk and other weapons that in the end you're probably not going to use anyways, because there's always going to be a more powerful variant, either unique or legendary. So that would be my suggestions to all.
There's a lot of ways to maximize the effects of legendary. You can also, don't forget, just because it comes up as a unique, you can still sell that shit. A lot of people forget that you can still sell those uniques, and they're worth a lot of money. Or not uniques, the legendaries, because it's the big difference. Because uniques you don't want to sell because there's only one of those, but the legendaries are kind of like random spawns. I believe they are. Are they random? Or are they in set locations? But it's based off your difficulty.
So it's based on your difficulty. Like the higher your difficulty, the more likely chance that legendaries will spawn. In my opinion, I think it is completely random. Wherever there are enemies spawning in the game, there is a random chance that one of those enemies might be legendary, or even two. But every one of those legendary enemies will have a legendary piece of item on them, whether that's a piece of armor, or whether that's a weapon. But you can't go into an area thinking, all right, there's definitely a legendary enemy there. It's completely randomized, I think.
I believe so too. Because there's sometimes in the open world they'll just kind of come at you, and they're a lot. I found though that usually the average is with every area that's like fully explorable, there's usually at least 2 legendaries. I've noticed.
I was finding a bunch of them, and I was playing the game on normal.
Same. I was playing on normal too, and I find like 2 or 3. Usually 2 though. 2 is usually the safe number for me.
Yeah. I don't know if I would want to play the game about survival and while apparently it's just ridiculously hard because of the healing, how it works. I'm not too sure. I haven't played it myself, but I think I would probably go to very hard, and then maybe for a later playthrough I'd play on survival.
Yeah, I think survival's a bit of a disappointment in Fallout 4 because it was such a missed opportunity in the sense that it could have been a hardcore mode. They could have really stretched out the game even more.
You were talking about survival. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just pick up there, and you'll give your thoughts, and we'll wrap this up so that we can get this fucking podcast up. Okay. I'll just hop into it, I guess.
Yeah. You're talking. I think you're transitioning to hardcore as well. Hardcore.
Yeah. So I feel that survival mode was a big missed opportunity for Bethesda in a sense. Although the game is very big and will be busy up to our ears with things to do, I think that survival mode, especially the title, was a bit misleading. I figured that the name survival mode meant that, water matters and food matters and stuff. And while it kind of matters in the core game because there's a lot of cooking and they give you good buffs and stuff, I feel like just bumping up the difficulty and making enemies almost invincible and having your character not be able to heal, that's not a survival mode. That just seems, that sounds unfair to me.
Well, and Bethesda's usually been really good with incorporating... Well, actually, to be fair, that was kind of Obsidian. Mm-hmm. They saw a lot of the popular mods for Fallout 3 and incorporated those into Fallout New Vegas. But I was hoping that from that experience, Bethesda would look at that and be like, all right, for example, people really liked hardcore mode as it was in New Vegas, and after all, it was an option. So why not include that in Fallout 4? I'm sure it's not that hard to do in reality. Like, if the mechanic was already there with Fallout New Vegas, they could have just kind of ported that over. I didn't know the ins and outs, but surely it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, I agree. I know that it's more than just a couple of meters, and I know Bethesda likes to not just bring things over, but innovate on them, so maybe they're waiting a little bit for future DLC, because I like I've said in the past, like I think the coolest thing ever would be like Bethesda's goes like, hey, free patch, hardcore mode is now a part of the game, because they want people to get their feet wet with like a first playthrough. Maybe they're doing something like that. I'm just saying that optimistically.
Yeah.
I already know that they're working on DLC because I almost said Courtney Williams. I don't know why. Courtney Taylor posted a picture of her in the booth at Bethesda.
With a Pip-Boy,
Yeah, so they are I almost said 7 days. 3 days after launch, and they are hard at work on DLC for the game already.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Cannot wait. Yeah. And I haven't even finished the proper game.
Yeah, I gotta get to work.
I gotta stop playing. I gotta stop making videos and stop playing.
Yeah, see, you listeners out there have the benefit of just playing and then like hopping on YouTube and seeing what we have. We have to stop playing to make more videos on the game, and then chances are after that we're like, okay, I'm gonna go do something else now. Yep.
But
we love
the game is great, and I just wish we could play it a bit more.
Because for perspective, ladies and gentlemen, me and Lone dumped like 40 hours in when we both first got this game, and since then we've probably both put in like a combined 10.
Not even that for me.
I was about to say, like, I probably did most of that too, and I'm the one who does this full time.
You've probably done 9.5 hours of that too. Oh shit!
Yeah, but like the past 2 times I've hopped on, it's been like, okay, time to play some Fallout, and like I go through one area and like it's my mom's birthday today, so it's like, shit, I gotta go fucking do things.
Or you're playing and like, oh shit, they make a really good video. I gotta do that. But these are first world problems. Obviously, we're just bitching.
Yeah. We'll have a more in-depth discussion, ladies and gentlemen, on this. I'd say like next week or another week from now. We want to let you guys play the game a little bit more before we start talking about things in depth. But we want to leave you guys with one thing. Let's talk about, not in depth, one area that we think the viewers, the listeners, should look forward to exploring in Fallout 4, and just kind of briefly tell them why.
The glowing sea. And we said this in our broken old podcast that's missing. The glowing sea for me was probably the most interesting area because it has that sense of mystery. You're literally walking in this place where you have limited visibility, a lot of radiation, and then you stumble upon a cave. I'm like, okay, what the fuck is in this random cave? And I found something really cool in there, and you might find something different because loot is randomized. And there are really unique different locations in there, and the glowing sea is somewhat tied. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. But it's really cool. It's just a personal favorite of mine.
Yeah. For me, the location that I think so far you should look most forward to exploring is the Cambridge Polymer Labs. It is just a random location you can find kind of towards the center of the map. And the reason I'm saying it specifically is because when you do stumble upon this, whatever you're doing, stop it and go inside. This is one of the coolest areas I've ever explored in Fallout because it's not only an awesome area because it has like a little puzzle in it and stuff, but the story behind here is just so fucked up. It made me like, we said this in the Broken podcast, it made me turn the game off so that I could go like watch sports and just not think about.
Is it really that bad?
I don't know, because for me, Fallout 4, like everyone else listening to this, is such a special game. So I feel like I don't get this immersed in games. You know, I play them for fun because that's how I started playing games. And I play them for good stories and get involved in them. But never this much where it personally impacts me. And it wasn't like I could relate or in any way. It was just such a heavy thing.
Yeah.
And just what happens in there, in this lab, it's just such a misunderstanding. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm building this area up because when you get there, just read the terminals. Do the environmental storytelling by just looking around and seeing things. Search every corner. It's not a big area either, so if you don't trust your observation skills, trust me, it's really hard to miss things. But really, just if you stumble upon this area, holy shit. I need someone to talk about this with because no one's found this area yet, and it's really not hard to find.
I will find it, and we'll talk about it. All right, mate?
Yes.
I promise.
Good.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we want to do a in-depth spoiler cast for those of you who've been playing the game a lot. And so I'd say...
You've got to finish the main story, Matty.
I am so close to the end, but I just refuse to let myself finish this game. I'm doing everything else but the story because it's so good. And I'm like... Because, like, if you look back at Fallout 3 and its main story, it's not like we were like, ugh, that was terrible, but... It's gonna feel like I can't just imagine looking back on Fallout 4 and being like, I beat the game because we talked about so many what ifs with the game. I can't. I'm gonna probably beat it tonight though, but I also want to collect all the bombs.
Do it.
I know.
Oh man, I loved it. I personally loved it, anyways.
Yeah, I can say that so far, and I'm basically at the end, to tell you the truth, and I won't say what's going on, but it's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're, really involved in the universe, which I assume if you watch Fallout videos, you are very involved in the Fallout universe and what happens in it. You really appreciate what Bethesda's done with it.
Yeah, they took a lot more. I won't say risks, maybe a strong word, but they took the Fallout universe and the role, and just ran with it. They're making it their own, but there are still ties to the original games, which I think is nice. Mm-hmm. But they are really trying to say Fallout is our franchise now, and we're going to run with it. They
do respect, and this won't spoil a thing. I'm just saying they do respect the originals. For those of you who are elitists out there, they mentioned like the She. That was a gang in San Francisco in Fallout 2 that you can meet, and so they mentioned things like that. So they do acknowledge the originals. They acknowledge all the Fallout games. Really, only thing I'm yet to hear be acknowledged is tactics.
Well, in Fallout 3, I was literally just about to say that they had the reference where they were talking about an old Brotherhood clan that went west or east or something, and they're like, they went rogue. Long story, or something like that. It was a real subtle reference to that.
See, I bet Fallout 4 probably has that. It's just like either I'm yet to bump into it, or it's something that vague, or it's like I completely missed it.
Yeah,
because tactics doesn't make sense to me. Because is it canon or is it semi-canon? It's got to be canon if it's in the anthology.
No, it's semi-canon. It's semi-canon.
See, fuck that. Like, just make it full.
But they've recognized it in some games again, like Fallout 3. So it happened. Like if the game implicitly assumes that happened, then it obviously did happen. But I don't know whether the entirety of the story, if you guys know what actually happened, is fully accepted. Because I don't know if it flies in the face of what happened in Fallout 3 in New Vegas as well, kind of, maybe.
In my opinion, because I know what happens in the end, like, it's just a Brotherhood of Steel story, you know what I'm saying? It's all about the Brotherhood of Steel, and fuck it. Like, it came out in 2000. They go to a vault at the end, and this vault was supposed to be like all the leaders of Vault Tech, they were supposed to emerge there or something along those lines, and it turned out to be like very corrupt, and so the Brotherhood just comes in and stomps them out. So it doesn't, and that's a very brief version of it, but
it's a Brotherhood story. But if it had such big ramifications and implications, then you would hear the Brotherhood of now talking about it actively. It wouldn't be like pushed to the side.
That's true.
So that's why I'm saying it's semi-canon to an extent.
It's got to be, yeah. That's true. Yeah. Good point.
Anyways,
let's wrap this up before any connections drop or if the podcast breaks again. Ladies and gentlemen, I know this is a short podcast. Consider this a lengthy discussion, but we recorded this once in full for an hour with Noah. I forgot to record. Yep. Then Lone and I tried to do this. Lone got up very early. Thank you, Lone. I had to skip out on part of my mom's birthday party so that I could come in and record the podcast. Lone's connection drops. And now here we are late at night in my time zone, probably like evening for you.
Yeah.
And finally finishing this podcast up.
Feels good.
Yeah, this has been the biggest struggle. Hopefully next week will be a much better and smoother process.
Yep, definitely. Oh, man.
Anyway, we thank you, the listener, for hopefully taking the time to listen to this convoluted, broken fucking podcast.
Have fun editing, man.
Yes.
and just send me the file.
Yeah, that's the funny part, ladies and gentlemen. I'm helping Lone out, so I have to edit all this now.
That's great. That's great.
All good.
Anyways, we don't have a guest to end the podcast, so I'll just do it myself. Thank you for listening to this long and taking yourselves away from Fight 4, but some of you are probably playing the game as we're speaking. So, anyways, thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Later.